says something, Jesus, he's not giving you an option. That is a commandment by him. And so he commands us to follow his instructions. And so the Bible declares that increase and take possession of the land the Lord swore to your fathers. I'm in verse number 2. Remember, somebody say remember, that the Lord your God led you this entire journey, just like some of you on today. I think past tense of things will allow our heart to get cute before God. We failing to recognize that even in what you think you did not have, God still kept you. He says, for 40 years, children of Israel, I've kept you this entire time. The same way he's kept you all of these years. Things may have not been the way you think they should have been. Things may have not gone the way you think they should have gone. But in spite of all of that, God looked past your faults and saw your needs and was able to take care of you and keep you in your wilderness experiences. So the Bible declares in Deuteronomy chapter number 8, remember. Well, why is he telling them to remember? I think because sometimes we forget. See, a thankful heart just doesn't look at a current state. A thankful heart is remembering past blessings. And he says, remember. So if you don't get nothing else out, remember of the goodness of the Lord that's over your life. There's some of you here on today right now should be dead, sleeping in your grave. But if it wasn't for God that was on your side, where would you be? Some of us should have been dead in a car accident, but somehow miraculously God was able to save you. And even when it was all bent up, God still allowed you to walk out. Some of you shot up in your arms and should have OD'd, but if it wasn't by the grace of God, you wouldn't have came back. It wasn't your organs, it wasn't your kidney, it wasn't your heart, it was the grace of God over your soul. So the Bible declares, he says, I remember the Lord your God led you this entire journey. Not a good journey, not a bad journey, the entire journey. These 40 years in the wilderness. So that he may humble and test you. There's some of you who are going through a wilderness experience this very moment, and the purpose of your wilderness experience is to humble you and test you. It's to humble you and test you. It's to humble you and test you. His plans is to prosper you and not harm you. Yea, though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you shall still fear no evil. The children of Israel is not going through nothing that you may not be going through yourself. What you're going through and what the children of Israel is going through is the same thing that Jesus went through in Luke chapter 4. The Bible declares the Spirit of the Lord led him into the wilderness. Wasn't the enemy. So many of us attach our wilderness experiences to Satan. Satan, you on my heel. Satan, you a liar and the truth ain't in you. Satan is not always the one that's causing you to go into a wilderness moment. Jesus himself was led there by the Spirit of the living God. While he was there, according to the Gospel of Luke, he said the Spirit of the Lord led him into the wilderness. And there is old Satan. Now let me explain something to you. A wilderness is not just to humble you and test you, but it's also to isolate you. It's for you to run out of mama, daddy, cousin, Ray, Lottie, Dottie, and everybody. And the only person you got to call on is the name of Jesus. I think no options is the best option when you need one option. And the one option you got to get out of this wilderness that you're going through right this second is the option that only God can do. And so he's there. The same text of Luke is the same text in Deuteronomy 8. He's there in the wilderness. He says he's there, and Satan begins to tell him to come on up. Come on up a little bit higher. Offers him the kingdom of the world. How are you going to offer the one who owns the world? And that is what Satan wants to do to all of us. He wants to offer you something that already belongs to you. Jesus the kingdom of this earth and understand that God, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness of thereof. He can't offer you peace when you already got it through Christ. Some of us think we got to smoke a blunt, pop a Percocet, do a 30-pack. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Just to get some peace. He can't offer you what already belongs to you through the blood of Jesus. So the Bible declares that he went on. He says, well, why don't you make these stones turn into bread? God says, you shall not live by bread alone, but every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Deuteronomy 8 says the same thing. Man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. And so here it is, Deuteronomy chapter number 8, he's speaking about it. He's letting them go hungry. And I truly believe that God will allow us to go hungry at times. Not just a fierce physical hungry, but hungry for us to depend on his feeding. Feed me till I won't no more. And I'm talking about a spiritual hunger. The Bible declares that those are blessed who hunger after righteousness. The question that God is asking you for, what are you hungry for this morning? Are you hungry for the things of the world? Or are you hungry for the righteousness of God? And so he begins to tell them, he says this, your clothing from mouth of the Lord, your clothing did not wear out. Your feet did not swell.